Hey, welcome to my channel. So I need a new wallet, and this has been laying around my house for a while now. And as you can see, she still has plenty of life to her. Yes, there are some scuff marks around the inside, and the green outside doesn't look so great. Overall, there's no tears or other flaws, so I'm going to transform this into something brand new. But before we start, let's gather all our materials that we need. I could just retry to paint this green, but I need something professional for work. So I'm going to take my black leather acrylic paint, and I want to use this for the outside. So I've used this before, so I know I can safely use this for my wallet, but I would recommend a test strip. I'm also planning to use this matte acrylic finisher when I'm finished painting the wallet. Supposedly you don't need this because the paint's supposed to dry permanently, but I like to use this for extra protection. Now grab your brushes. I'm going to use this flat brush for the majority of this project, but I suggest having a variety just for the smaller areas of the wallet. A round brush or a liner brush can be helpful. But before we start painting, we're going to deglaze this entire wallet. Make sure you get all the nooks and crannies so your paint will not peel off once you finish this project. Do this to all the areas of the wallet you're planning to paint. Here I'm just doing the inside of my wallet. I'm making sure that I'm getting my card holder areas and all the other areas I'm planning to repaint. Once that's dry, I'm going to grab my black paint and use this plastic painting palette. Make sure to use clean wells. You don't want to drag other colors into your paint. If you don't have one of these, you can use a clean plastic plate or whatever you have laying around the house. Now I'm just going to dip my brush and I'm just going to go for it and start painting. If you notice, I'm not trying to put a glob of paint on this. I'm trying to do just enough that it covers it, and I'm going to plan to do 2 coats anyways, so just don't use too much paint. But you also want to make sure you have enough paint that you don't cause some streaking. Also try to go one direction with your painting. This whole process can take a while, especially because we have to let it dry in between coats. So about right here, I should have probably changed my brush because I'm going to have to use a smaller brush for these areas. And since my brush was so big, it actually made it difficult to paint these areas. As you can see, even though I was trying very carefully not to get it all over the white, I still did. So let's compare brushes. As you can see, this is still pretty big and wide. I should have used a smaller brush, just like this, especially where I needed to paint the edges. But the best way to prevent you from getting paint everywhere that you don't want is to actually use painter's tape. I completely forgot about this step because I just was so excited about painting this wallet. So here I am finally realizing that I actually should have done this first. And this can be very tedious since some of it does not want to stick to the wallet. Also, get your tape close to the edge because you're trying to prevent this from happening. Once you got your tape all over the wallet, it's time to start painting again. So here I'm using my tiny brush to carefully paint the edges of the wallet. And now I'm more confident that I'm not going to get black paint all over the white areas that I don't want painted black. It's also easier if you paint the edges by following one direction so you don't miss any spots. Painting this wallet can take a long time, but it's actually very relaxing once you get into it. Also, don't forget to paint the inside edges of your wallet. This is really important that you do this carefully. Now let this dry. Once everything is no longer wet, you're going to paint the inside of this part. I think this is called a coin holder, but what I'm just doing now is just stuffing it with a bunch of paper towels. Here I'm using my flat brush again because I'm lazy and I just want to cover it faster. But then I'm going to transition to my smaller, tinier brush. And so I'm just going to make sure I get all the edges and all the corners very carefully. Now let this dry with the paper towels inside. This is what it should look like afterwards. Once this is dry, we're going to move on to the white part of the wallet. Here I'm just going to carefully remove all my tape and I'm going to put it on the other side. Make sure all the black paint is actually dry before you do this, because if you don't, all the tape is going to rip it off. Now grab your painter's tape and let's start on the other side. So I'm going to do all the edges again, just making sure that all the black is covered. Now that I'm done with that, I'm just going to grab my white acrylic paint and also my beige acrylic leather paint. Since this is off-white, I'm going to try to match the color as best as I can. I'm doing this very slowly. This is actually a very long process and it can take a while, but once I'm satisfied, I'm going to start painting. I'm going to try to cover this green spot that I found on this wallet. This might take a few coats, and be patient because you have to let it dry in between. Make sure to use a thin layer every time. If you don't, it's going to look clumpy and uneven. Now let this dry. Now I want to do this pocket. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to plan to do since there's so many card holders on this wallet. I'm going to grab some paper and I'm just going to fold it numerous times into this kind of square triangle thing. I'm going to insert it into this pocket and it's going to look like this. This is going to help keep your pocket open so you can paint underneath and allow you to paint inside your wallet. So here's what it looks like. So I decided to use a thinner brush because it was leaving less streaks, and I was able to get to the corners a lot easier. After you're done with that, you're just going to basically let it dry and repeat the process. This technique actually helps you let your pockets dry without it getting stuck together. So definitely have some patience and be careful. For the bigger pockets, I actually used 2 different pieces of paper to keep it open like this. Now I just repeat the process again and I carefully paint the insides. And remember, you want to let this dry in between coats. If you are impatient, you could actually use a hairdryer to help speed up the process. So finally, I'm almost done and we can finally move on to the next part. Once your white paint is actually dried, you can now start peeling off the tape on the black side. Grab your acrylic finisher. I chose matte, of course, because I didn't want this to be too shiny. Shake it up and we're going to start. Here I'm just going to get the rest of the dust off just to make sure that there's nothing left on this wallet. I'm using my flat brush, of course, and I am painting. Use a thin layer of this very carefully. You don't want this to be too clumpy. And for this part, I'm actually going to use a hairdryer so it will dry evenly. So this is what it looks like right here. So I'm going to make sure I use the finisher all over my wallet, especially since I'm done painting. This is what I'm just doing right now. I'm going to try to do this very evenly, and I'm only going to use 1 coat for this wallet. If you can't tell, I'm actually doing this in sections, and it takes a while. Make sure you do this on the inside of your wallet as well. So let's see how it turned out. Not too bad. I'm actually pretty happy of how it looks. Yes, I do miss the green, but it looks like a whole new wallet. Here's what she looks like inside. Not too different, but it actually looks better. All right, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. See you next week.